Good morning and welcome again to our spiritual celebration here at our spiritual center. And I am so glad you were divinely guided to join us here for the next 45 minutes to an hour as we continue our talk on freedom through flow. As always, while we're sitting here talking anyway for the next couple of minutes, why don't you go ahead and let people know to go ahead and share this out. If you're watching this, let other people know about this to join in. And as always, if they like what they see or want to be a part of our community, go down to YouTube, hit the like button, hit the share button, and also hit that bell so they know when any video drops. So as I said, we're continuing our talk on freedom through flow, and it's pretty much as we've been defining it over the last couple of weeks, and you're going to hear it again in my talk today, is pretty much living in the flow as living abundantly where all your needs are being met, and even more that you're living and working and breathing in things that make your heart afire, make you excited, make you ready to go. Unities all over the world right now are talking about prosperity and prosperity practices. One of my teachers is actually doing the Unexpected program, and that's something that over the summer you take time to do an affirmation daily, add it to your prayer, and as you do the affirmation, an unexpected money, not your normal salary, not whatever, but the unexpected comes, they're giving to their churches because we believe that much in the principles there. So as we talk about give, if you wish to give and help us out here to continue to grow, put our equipment together, continue to evolve this ministry, again, I am just letting Spirit lead me to where it's going to be, but anybody who knows me knows I am someone who not only loves to talk about these principles, but to see people actually practice these principles and do that, and also the fact of being in service with others. But again, if you wish to give, you can go to our website. The website's listed on the screen. Or if you want to use your phone, you can go ahead and snap on the QR code, which will take you directly to the donation page. And we appreciate everybody who's already given, and that money has been used to bring other guest speakers, things like that. So I'm truly excited for what we've done so far. But again, we just talked about that practicality. It's about being practical with the practices you hear. They may challenge you, they may make you feel a little fearful, but that's okay. When we move past the fear, or as the book is called, feel the fear, do it anyway, and move through it, we truly engage in these principles and see the results of what we do. You know, I just watched a movie, which I love. It's called I Believe, with a young child that read the verse. Jesus said, "You can do all that I can do and so much more." And all he did was go around town pretty much telling people to pray, to keep in mind, to do things, and what we would call miracles were happening, and everybody called him the miracle boy. But in reality, all he did was doing what I'm doing, is telling you the powers that you have within you through these new thought principles. But to do that, you must engage in the practice. So if you want to engage more, I ask you to go ahead and connect with us. Again, websites on the bottom, fill out the form, let us know if you need prayer, you want to ask a question, give a testimony, or even volunteer in your bunny slippers to help us out with these videos online until such Spirit calls us to do more. And again, you can use the QR code to get to that page, fill it out, and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. But the beauty is, as I always say, being here on Sunday is important, but it's also important that you engage, practice these principles all week long. Again, we try not to take a bath once a week, so we take a bath daily to make sure that we take care of it. So I'm telling you to take your spiritual bath on a daily basis, practicing prayer, take time for meditation and that. And as always, our weekly videos will be beginning again with new names, such as Meditation Monday will become Meditation with Reverend Rich, and even Wisdom Wednesdays is going to become Weekday Wisdom, because Spirit talks at different places and we can't always hold it to the same day. So watch out for the new videos as they come along. And I'm truly grateful for you once again. And if you haven't watched all the series, go back, engage in our ceremony, engage in our last talks, And make sure you're here for next week as we conclude the talk. And with that, I'm tired of talking. Let's get you right to that.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Let me ask you a question. Where is your consciousness and mindset today? When I'm feeling down and blue, I found a trick that I'll share with you. I can choose a better way with every little thought I think. If I wake up a bad attitude, I fill my mind with gratitude. I give thanks for everything with every little thought I think. I can choose to be happy, choose to be free. Moment by moment, it's all up to me. 'Cause what I think about, I bring about. That's the way it is, and there's no doubt. Day by day, I pave the way with every little thought I think. What you thinking? 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 What you're thinking? When I'm feeling down and blue, I found a trick that I'll share with you. I can choose a better way with every little thought I think. If I wake up in a bad attitude, I fill my mind with gratitude. I give thanks for everything with every little thought I think. I can to be happy, choose to be free. Moment by moment, it's all up to me. 'Cause what I think about, that's the way it is, and there's no doubt. Day by day, I pave the way with every little thought I think. Day by day, I pave the way with every little thought I think. Day by day, I pave the way with every little thought I think. What you thinking? 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 What you're thinking?
Our daily word for today is prosperity. It comes from February 21st, 1947. And our affirmation is, divine love is the magnet that draws my good to me, and my prosperity is assured. Again, divine love is the magnet that draws my good to me, and my prosperity is assured. And our prayer for today, love is the greatest attractive force in the universe, and when we express love in every thought, word, and deed, it acts as a mighty magnet that draws to us every good gift that we need or desire. Because we are human and have not yet learned how to think in terms of unlimited and eternal good, we often think of prosperity merely in terms of money. We feel that it is necessary for us to have a great deal of money in order to be prosperous, or that we are not prosperous at all unless we have more money than we know what to do with. But as students of truth, we learn that prosperity actually is far more the finest things that money can buy, for it includes all divine gifts that are in our Father's storehouse, namely life, wisdom, peace, plenty. Let us assure ourselves of prosperity by becoming more loving in heart toward all men, and we shall draw to ourselves supply for every need of mind, soul, and body. And from our Christian scriptures, 1 John chapter 4, verse 12, His love is perfected in us. Let us take a few moments in the silence to let these words enter our consciousness.
get a hold of me. So wide open, so amazing, it takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I know God.
As we continue our theme of freedom through flow. And I'm so thrilled to have heard and learned that we are looking at the topic deeply, touching important things for many of you. So thank you for sharing that with me, and it truly makes my heart sing. So for those who haven't been here yet this month, let us clarify what freedom through flow actually means. It means having a constant, regular, abundant flow of financial prosperity in and through our lives, so that we have the freedom to share our gifts with the world and the freedom to have, be, and do that which makes our hearts sing, all of which are God ordained. Let me say that again, because for some, it could be a new take on an idea of financial prosperity. It means to having a consistent, regular, abundant flow of financial prosperity in and through our lives, so that we have the freedom to share our gifts with the world and the freedom to have, be, and do what makes our hearts sing, all of which are God ordained. Because here's the deal. If we are struggling just to make ends meet, trying to figure out how to get the rent paid or get groceries on the table or get the car repair bill paid, and I know many people are facing these issues, it's pretty darn challenging to have the time, energy, and focus to live in the level of sharing our gifts with the world and having, being, and doing what makes our hearts sing, correct? And yet, sharing our gifts with the world and having, being, and doing which makes our hearts sing is what life desires to be as us. So let's go ahead and investigate that. So again, last week we opened up with a quote by Sir Francis Bacon that says, "Money is a good servant but a bad master." And again, I just wanted to preface before we move on to our talk this week is that this 4-week talk has nothing to do with moving into the worship of money or loving money, as you know the biblical saying says, the love of money is the root of all evil, or even having money become our God. We're doing this to change our relationship with a tool that will allow us not only to live that freedom of doing what we love, but also to do the work of good or the work of God. Because a lot of times we push things away. As we talked about last week, we push those opportunities away, which are there to help us build who we are, and in turn have that come out in place. And sometimes the tool that we need to use is money. You know, I had a talk a long time ago, and I said this. I said there are very few people in my circle, which if I walked up with 2 suitcases, let's say for 2 people, with $1 million in those suitcases, that their first thought is, who can I bless? And that's what's important, because when we give, as the song you'll soon hear says, we receive. And that's the relationship we want to have, that we don't have a fear of letting money work for us, but we have an acceptance and a knowledge. You know, I heard a Unity minister recently talk about this, and talk about being, you know, a fish swimming in water, looking for water. And many of us walk around with this consciousness of looking for God or looking for good when it's already all around us, in and through us. But we're so busy looking for it that we forget that we're swimming in it. And that's what I want you to take away from these talks. And know that what we're presenting you with is creating a new relationship with the tools we give you, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, and in this case, we're talking about money. So let's kind of revisit last week where we talked about the acronym for money, or as we called it, the money mantras. So we started off with M, which was the mindset about money. What is it that irks you when we talk about money? Are you one of those people that talk about the filthy rich? Or are you one that can celebrate and not hate? Opportunities. Are you poor because you're passing over opportunities regularly? Or are you truly open to God's substance when that idea or that dream comes through and you know in your heart that it is a divine intuition, a divine message telling you, I'm giving you the prosperity you wanted in the form of a dream. Now go work it instead of letting it go. What is your network? Is your network the same as your net worth? Who it is that you associate with. Are you part of a spiritual community that talks about prosperity and abundance and healing and knowing that the good is all around you? Or are you around people that love that drama and love that talking about the negativity? Even me, as I admitted and testified before, that the negativity was almost an addiction to me being around people like that because it was easy for me to shade blame somewhere else. But when I learned that this too shall pass, and I had to understand that that was for the good and the bad in my life, that it what just is, I was able to start to build a network of people around me, and even those people around me grew and learned. The energy of calm confidence, we talked about that. It's how we react. I think it was Randy Gage who I learned it from, where he said that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Can you stay in a calm and know that even when you perceive challenges, that life is flowing and it's unfolding in front of you? This is the reason when I do a meditation, I tell you to let go of the past, because it's already done and gone. But most importantly, let go of the anxiety of the future, because as we remain in the present, that present moment continues to unfold our future as we put these principles into practice. And finally, saying yes to that which supports the flow. I'm guilty of it. I remember Reverend Diane and I having a conversation where the church wants to bless me for talking or give me money for something I did. And I'd immediately say, yeah, just put it back in the church fund. And it was Reverend Diane who opened my heart to being open to receive. And that's why we did that talk a number of weeks ago. Because it is just as important that we're open to receive as much as we like to give. So if you remember our 5 affirmations for last week, we're going to go over it this week if you don't remember it. And I'm going to see if we put it up on the screen as we do this. So with that being said, I want you to remember Amy Cuddy, the TED Talk where she talks about being in a pose. So I want you to put your shoulders back, your chin up, and I want you to put your arms up in a V for victory as we recite each and every one of these mantras together. And again, I live in an abundant universe that delights in the expressing its limitless supply through me. I make welcome, attune to, and take action on any and all opportunities that come my way to increase the flow of abundance in my life. I surround myself with people who delight in the freedom that money represents, who are generous givers as well as grateful receivers, and who continuously embrace the flow of abundance in their lives. I recognize that money flows to me easily and effortlessly, and I move through my day with calm confidence, knowing this is so. And I say yes only to those things that lead to greater expansion, flow, and abundance in my life, and so it is. So, good work. And again, I'll have this on the screen, so if you got your phone out, go ahead and snap a picture to keep it for yourself. If not, you can screenshot it if you're on your computer. But if all else, you can always contact me and I will send them via email so that you have them, post them on your wall. Imagine doing this every morning as part of your prayer and meditation practice, doing this every night as you're going to sleep, to have this going through your head to help you find that relationship with the better you. But let's begin our talk for this week, okay? When we talk about God's substance being around us, it is the knowing. So I said this on, I think it was one of my Wednesday Wisdoms. I talked about Reverend Anna, who brought up a teaching from Reverend Jim Gaithers, and I actually have the book called How to Be God's Wick. And they talk about how the wax around a candle. So let's talk about a large church candle. That candle all around is built with wax, and that wax has the potentiality of burning, we'll just say 65 hours, because it's large, it's thick. But to be able to burn the wax in that candle, you have to have a wick. And that wick knows that there's wax around it to sustain the burn. And such as when we talk about God's substance, if God's substance is that wick or that wax that's around us, it is the unlimited potential of what we can be. And the wick becomes the consciousness we know in that. So the question we ask you this week is, did you know that you are provided for? And if so, did you know that you are provided for in all ways as well as in all ways? Which is the name of our talk this week. So as we begin that, let's talk about how Jesus talked to us. And he recorded in Luke 12 with verse 22. He says, as many of you heard it before, you may have probably heard this, but I invite you into a new depth with it this morning and renewal of the understanding of that chapter and verse. And we're going to begin with verse 22. So, keeping an open heart and open mind, I want you to remember you are provided for always in all ways. So, before I read the biblical survey, we're going to read a translation by John Lambza, so George Lambza, Dr. George Lambza. And so you know who he is. He was a person who translated the Bible in Aramaic, which is part of the language that he still was able to speak and read. And we know that Jesus was a Jewish man, but lived in a time where Aramaic was the language is spoken. So a lot of the words and context were changed because just like you and I would talk as friends, coming up, as a young teenager, bad was good and cool was cool and things like that. Sometimes we don't know what the meanings are when we try to translate something as literal as possible. So George Lambza has done many works out there. I actually have one of his books as he translates certain biblical passages into the strict, just in the Aramaic language. And he says, and therefore I say unto you, do not worry for your life, what you will eat, nor for your body, what you will wear. For life is much more important than food, and the body than clothing. Observe ravens, they do not sow nor reap, they have no storehouses and barns, and yet God feeds them. How much more important are you than the birds? Who among you by worrying can add to his stature 1 cubit? So if you are not able to do the smaller things, why do you worry about the rest? Observe the flowers, how they grow, for they do not toil, nor do they spin. But I say to you that not even Solomon in all his glory was arrayed like one of them. And if God clothes in such fashion the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow fails into the fireplace, how much more is he to you? You of all of little faith, or as other reverends have said, you knucklehead. So do not be anxious about what you will eat or what you will drink, And let not your mind be disturbed by these things, for worldly people seek after all these things, and your Father knows that these things are also necessary for you. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added to you. Do not be afraid, O little flock, for your Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. Or, as we're more accustomed of hearing, fear not, little flock, for it is in your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So again, the version you heard is an Aramaic translation of it. So if it kind of differs a little bit, be open-minded to it. Again, you can research George Lamza, and I'll be talking about one of his students who are also still doing the work. But, so again, we look up the word Father, and in New Thought, we have a lot of different New Thought principles. Again, we are, part of Unity and the Fillmore teachings. But we're going to look at some of Eric Butterworth's, where he says in his book, Spiritual Awareness, each of us is the heir to the riches and the power and the glory of the kingdom of God. We are all sons and daughters of the one Father who freely gives us of his limitless abundance. In unity of humankind with spirit, there can be no lack or limitation. Each of us is entitled to all that our Father has. The realization that God is an infinite source is drawing upon our awakened thought, expanding our acceptance of greater abundance and dispelling all lack. And then from the book Philosophy of Jesus, here is where our greatest experiment in the use of the power that Jesus understood starts. This is the very beginning of it. We must believe that there is a divine presence. Of course, our belief does not create it, it merely acknowledges it. The wick in the candle is a consciousness of the substance of God. It is this acknowledgement of the divine presence that Jesus was referring to when he said, your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask of him. So, as we listen to these words of New Thought people, isn't it beautiful to know that no matter what we're talking about, everything we need is already out there. We need to be open to receive it. Even in my own prosperity, when money was scarce and things were challenging, and I just talked about this, I was holding up the door and I was not letting it in because all I could focus on was the lack. I had no faith in the substance around me. I was the fish looking for a glass of water in his bowl. Okay? I'm swimming around in the water, but I couldn't find it because I could not understand how these principles work. But when I had to turn around and say, if I have faith in what I have learned, I have to tap into these principles, I need to practice these principles, things began to turn around. And each day I grow in consciousness that much more. So, do not be afraid, O flock, for your Father is pleased to give you the kingdom. Or even if we think about, we are the sons and daughters of the one Father who freely gives. Each one of us is entitled to all that our Father has. And your Father knoweth what things you need of before you ask of him. Now, about 2 months ago, we celebrated Father's Day. And I'm pretty sure if I ask my children what a father means to them, and I can hope that I fulfill this list. But when we think of a father in the sense of a dad, we think of a provider, a protector, a supporter, a source, whether it's of knowledge or money, we know how kids are, guardian, and giver. So when we talk about or told in the scriptures that God is and that the Father is willing to give of us, and we'll talk about the title Father in a moment, we think of God as a provider, protector, supporter, the source, the guardian, the giver. But if you had an unliving, withholding, perhaps even punishing human father, then you most likely bring some of those emotional, psychological, and even spiritual baggage to these statements. God the Father and can't hear or receive the profound message that you're always and always provided for. It's one of those subjects that we say it's when we talk about truth, we humanize God because it's easier to be with him. One of my favorite sayings, and I used to close all my talks with it, and I even entertained creating a tattoo of it, is may the God of your understanding forever inspire you. So we want to continue to evolve, not only our relationship, as they say, but our consciousness of what God is. So if we're bringing our human emotions to our image of God, are we truly being the wick in the substance? Or are we changing and evolving our consciousness to knowing what God is? I know for me, if I talked about myself, coming from a Catholic background, there was a lot of things that I brought with me. I went through Catholic school, I skipped a grade, went to a Jesuit high school. And I always tell the story that in Jesuit high school is when the questions began, because things started to change as the consciousness in the church was changing, and the Jesuit is at a higher level. So, with the questioning came a lot of things, but I also saw how the same teachings of a loving God were also the same teachings of hatefulness and racism and things like that. So I took a hatred toward anything that had to do with being Christian or even Catholic. Unity was a blessing because it turned that around for me, because even though I dabbled in some Buddhism and I dabbled in Kabbalah studies, or the Kabbalah studies, I learned some great things, and I was able to bring it back into with unity teachings. And I was metaphysically start looking at stories and see how it is and how accepting and inclusive and how diversified the people are. I recently watched a few of the videos. I wasn't able to watch the entire thing of what Unity puts on called the Fillmore Festival, and they were talking about healing. And I heard things that literally changed my perspective on so much. And that's what drives me to be here. It is what I had to learn to raise my consciousness to help you learn those same principles. Because as I evolve, I want to help you evolve and understand more. So now that you've heard my story and how I've evolved with all the teachings and the physical world, and how we connect and how we learn to love from that space and how we give from that space, is as I said, one of the people that's still doing George Lambsa's work is Rocco Errico. He's an Aramaic scholar, tells us that when Jesus referred to God as Father in the context of his language and time, it was a term of endearment and not necessarily a reference to God in the role of a father as we understood it. So again, since I'm speaking to people all over the place, keep your open mind and heart, because again, we're talking about using the actual language that Jesus would have spoken at that time. So if we are using father as a term of endearment, father technically just meant beloved. And Errico tells us that among the Aramaic and Arabic-speaking people of that time, a sister would call her sister father, a mother would call her son father, even a father would call his son by the endearing term. So again, maybe not so much father, but the word Abba, which is the Aramaic term. So in order for us to have that freedom of the flow, it's the relationship with the beloved that must cultivate, nurture, and deepen through our prayer, meditation, and contemplation study. This is why we are told in Jesus' powerful prosperity teaching, seek first the kingdom of God and all will be added. Another little tidbit when we talk about prayer. The word in Aramaic for prayer actually means to trap. So I'm not going to get into that whole lesson because it is a whole talk. But when we look at the prayer of our Father in the Bible, we have come to learn that Jesus wasn't actually telling us to recite what he said, but more of this was instructional of how to pray. So when he said our Father, or pray in this way, or to trap in this way, and he said to trap that beloved feeling, is to get into that feeling of oneness with God in your prayer time. So when you're affirming or calling upon our Father or my beloved, we're trapping that feeling of love, peace, and harmony that comes to you. So I want you to keep that in mind as you go through this week, through your prayer and your practice, hearing yourself, knowing that if you participate in the 5-step prayer process, the first one is relaxation. It's taking that breath in and knowing that we're releasing everything around us for that feeling of that beloved love, joy, and peace that is within ourselves. We trap that feeling because it is within that kingdom that all will be added. So, as we open ourselves to the power and presence of God the Father, God the Beloved, let's realize that we are the sons and daughters of the Beloved who freely gives us of limited abundance. We are entitled to all that our Beloved has. Our Beloved knows what things we need before we even ask. And we need not be afraid, for our Beloved is pleased to give us of this kingdom. And this we can depend in always and always, and in knowing we are absolutely experiencing the freedom of flow if we enter into that consciousness, knowing that it's already done, and we let it be, because there is nothing to force, there is nothing to do, but just stay in the freedom of the flow. So with that, let's go ahead and take a quick meditation as we close our eyes and we breathe into this moment, knowing that we're entering into that section, that kingdom within, the seat of the soul, where we find our divine nature, that Christ nature within ourselves, that allows us to be one with the Father, one with the Beloved, one with God. And it is breathing into that space, knowing that we feel this beloved energy in and through in all of us, knowing that this same energy is blessed with all the sons and daughters throughout the kingdom, throughout the world. Knowing that in oneness we join in this peace and love, and because the Father knows what we need beforehand, there is no need other to acknowledge that we are already receiving love and peace and joy and health and prosperity. But it is for us to do the work to express it, because as Dr. Johnny Coleman reminds us, it works when you work it. And we need to remind ourselves that we are not fish swimming in water looking for water, for we already know that in our day, through every breath, through every sight, through every sound, that we are already swimming in substance. That presence, that spirit that we call God, and we know it's all good. And as we continue to put this to work and practice, we know that all that we desire, all that makes our heart light up is already done, because we say it is and so it is, and we let it be. And we affirm all of this with a resounding yes, Ashe, Somo Tevi, and an amen. And as always, I thank you for being here. Do the work. And as I always tell you, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it, and I will see you on our next episode.
If you want more love, give love. If you want more joy, give joy. If you want more peace, give peace. If you want more want more money, give your money. If you want more time, give your time. If you want more friends, be a friend. If you want more, give. If you want more, give. When you give, you receive. It's simple as that. There's no effort, no struggle, just a simple fact. If you want to change, see change, be the change. If you want to have more truth, tell your truth. If you want more gratitude, give thanks. If you want more, give. If you want more, give. When you give, you receive. That's simple as that. There's no effort, no struggle. It's just a simple fact. It's just a simple fact. Just a simple fact, Jack. If you want more love, give love. If you want more joy, give joy. If you want more peace, give peace. If you want more, give. 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 If you want more, got to give. If you want more, give. If you want more, give.